All right, mixing kick and bass. Mixing kick and bass. It's very important, but it's not complicated at all. And in this video, I'll show you how to mix them together to make sure that they don't fight and just glue together seamlessly. There's lots of ways of mixing kick and bass, but one of the most effective and simplest methods is to use sidechain compression. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, what is sidechain compression? It's a good question. Sidechain compression is when you take one signal and only compress it when another signal is active. So for example, you have a bass, you have a kick, and when the kick is playing, the bass is ducking and compressing. Let's take a look. All right, if we take a look at an example of a kick and bass and the bass is not being sidechain compressed, this is what it sounds like. It's just a typical sort of house beat. Sounds pretty terrible because the kick and the bass are fighting with each other. Now let's add one of the methods for sidechain compression, and let's play it again. See the difference? It's not fighting with the kick anymore. The kick has its space, the bass has its space, and it all sort of glues together. Let's compare both of them again. So this is without, with. That's a huge difference, right? The one without sidechain sounds like complete dog. Anyways, there's 3 ways to do this. They're all pretty simple. Let's go through them. I know I said difficulty is moderate for this one, but it's really not that bad. The compressor that I'm using today is the fab filter compressor, but you can use any compressor, including the one that's just built into your DAW. What we're doing here is sidechain compression at its core. You can see we have an 808, just a simple pattern that I programmed in. Just something simple for, a hip hop style beat. And it's pretty strong 808. If we want to add a kick, if you play them together, see the kick is not going through, the 808 is fighting with it, and it's kind of causing a problem. So what we have here is the compressor enabled on the 808 channel. And see in Logic, there's a little arrow pointing there. What that means, if we turn it on, is in the fab filter compressor, you can open up the sidechain menu right here. You can add your sidechain from the top. Every DAW is different, but in Logic, you have your sidechain sort of selection right here. You select that you want it to sidechain from the kick. Now what you're saying to Logic is, okay, every time the kick plays, I want you to compress the 808 signal. And you can sort of play, I'd keep the attack pretty fast. You can play around with the release. So what the release does is the faster you have the release, the quicker the compressor will sort of let go after it starts compressing. The slower the release, the longer it takes to let go after it starts compressing. So you kind of play around with release to figure out what works with a particular sound. And then the threshold as well, depending how hard you want it to compress, you play around with the threshold until something feels right. So with these settings here, we have the sidechain enabled, we have the kick enabled. Let's see visually what's happening. So if we play the 808 pattern on its own, see, no compression. It's just playing sort of at its level. But as soon as we turn on this compressor and I play the kick at the same time, you can see the compressor gets activated. And again, that's a huge difference. The kick is punching through the 808, the compressor, it's doing its job, it's giving us space for the kick, and it's not letting the 2 sounds clash together. So this is kind of the classic sidechain. I prefer this method just because it's not that complicated, and you have lots of control in terms of how hard you want it to compress, with the threshold and the ratio, and how quickly do you want it to release after it starts compressing. Once you dial it in, you get a perfect sort of mix between your kick and your bass. And this quick method cleans up the mix a lot. Just doing this one thing between your kick and your 808 or your bass does wonders. All right, this one's very easy, super simple. It's a plugin called Kickstart by Nicky Romero. This is sort of an easy version of doing sidechain compression. You have the shape of how you want the sound to be sort of shaped and compressed down. You have the frequency, so do you want it every bar, half bar, quarter bar, eighth of a bar, and then your mix, you can dial it in as well. This plugin in particular, it's not as versatile as the first method that I showed you, but this is used for 4 on the floor type of beats. If you don't know what 4 on the floor is, this is 4 on the floor. Just, kick on every single bar. That's 4 on the floor. Like house music, upbeat pop music. Yeah, not that complicated. And to use this plugin, all you do is drag it onto your bass channel right here. So I have bass channel over here, Kickstart, let's turn it on, and let's look at the difference. So you have the example before Kickstart, so let's actually turn Kickstart off. See, the kick is not poking through, it's fighting with the bass. So if you turn on Kickstart on the bass channel, let's bring up the mix to 100, free punch setting. Every 4th note, it will duck the bass. It will bring the volume down of the bass every time the kick goes. It's not linked to the kick in any way. It's just linked to the timing of the song and to quarter of the bar. And this is what it sounds like. All right, simple, but limited. If you make house music, this one's really easy. All right, the next one's pretty easy as well. It's in principle very similar, if not almost the same as Kickstart, with slight differences. It's a plugin called LFO Tool. LFO is low frequency oscillation. You use it in synthesis a lot. It's the same company, actually, Exifer, that makes Serum. And this tool is great. It sort of, again, shapes the volume of the sound that you're passing it through. And whereas Kickstart just has these different presets of how you want to shape your sound, with LFO Tool, you can just shape it to however you want it to be shaped. So for example, here I want it to duck initially, bring up the volume, and then repeat over and over every 4th note right here. So again, very limited because it just plays kind of, you can either MIDI trigger it and you can link it to the kick, or you can trigger it so it just plays sort of in time with with the beat. But I'd still recommend to use the first method of sidechain compression, just using a compressor and turning on sidechaining. But LFO Tool is great, has its uses as well outside of sidechaining. So this is, maybe let's make it more aggressive. Let's bring it down. Yeah, let's do this. So it's gonna duck a lot of volume out of the bass. So this is without LFO Tool. All right, you guys have heard this, and then this is with LFO Tool. Maybe a little too aggressive, but anyways. Right, huge difference. And if we play it together with the whole beat, let's bring in some other drums, for example. So without doing any sort of mixing to the bass. See, it all kind of fights with each other, but when you mix it together and you use sidechain to bring out that initial punch of the bass, it just cleans it up so much. A lot better. All right, so that was, I don't know if you guys can hear it, but my computer is an absolute rocket ship. Even just a small Logic session and the fans are spinning up. I need to upgrade this thing soon. Anyways, I hope this video was helpful. Let me know in the comments below if you found it helpful, if you have other tips for mixing kick and bass together, and what other mixing or music production tips you'd like to see on the channel. If you liked the video, hit the thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, and catch you in the next one.